So this is a review of T3R1, which is the probability activity. It actually should be T4R1. And probability is a section that came up into both papers, and it's approximately 5% to each of the papers. So we've got a few main things we need to be able to do. The important one is finding probability as a fraction, as a decimal, as a percentage. We must be able to draw and read tree diagrams, and we must be able to create and to read contingency tables, or sometimes called two-way tables. So let's start going through this. The first question here we've got is a survey at Fundakale High School, and they're describing the number of boys and girls who actually enjoy reading in the table. They want us to work out the missing values below for A and B. So if we look at where A is sitting right now, when we have contingency tables, we've got total columns, right? We've got the total row at the bottom here, and we've got the total at the end of each row over there. So you can pick which one you want to use. But the main thing is that things are adding up to get to that total, so we can subtract to work backwards. So I'm going to use this bottom 487. So all we're going to do is say 487 minus the 372 that we already know, which comes from above it, to get to our missing value of A. And if we do that, we should get to 487 minus 372, 115. Okay, if you did it the other way, and you could have said 327 minus 212, it'll still get you back to that 115 answer. So both ways will work. Then we need to go for B, and B is a total. So B is just simply adding up the numbers above it there. So all we need to do is add them together, and we're going to say 212 plus 101 gives me 313, and that's B. Then they wanted to determine the probability of a girl being selected by means of random selection. Write your answer as a percentage of random selection. So we are almost always dealing with random selection in Mathslit. It's just whether it's from the whole group or it's from a subset in the group. So in this case, they're asking us about girls. So we're looking at probability of girls out of the total. So I don't want to look in the enjoys reading or does not enjoy reading columns, because those are only sections of the girls, right? We are wanting to know girls in general. So this is the total girls that we have, and it's a percentage of the total learners altogether. So percentage, we know we always start with a fraction, and probability we also always start with a fraction. So we're going to say, well, what is the probability is 473 out of 800. And then to change a fraction into a percentage, we times by 100. Now, you always want to show that fraction first, because you normally get 1 to 2 marks just for that fraction. The changing to a percentage is normally an add-on mark after that. So 473 over 800 times by 100 gives us 59,125. So 59,125%. Okay, and that kind of makes sense, because half of the group would be 400, which is 50%, so slightly more than 50. Makes sense. Remember, you're always wanting to be thinking, does your answer actually make sense to the numbers and the information we've been given? All right, let's look at question number 2. Question number 2 is a group of grade 10 learners. They were asking about what airtime they use in a month, and the results are given in the table below. What is the probability that the learner uses 29 rands of airtime in a month? Give your answer as a decimal fraction rounded to 3 decimal places. Okay, so to do this, we always want to first start with, well, how many options are there altogether? Because that's going to be the bottom of our fraction, the total number of possible answers. So if we count, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. So that means the bottom of my fraction is going to be 16, because I've got 16 possible answers. Then how many of those options are 29 rands? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to have 5 out of 16. Then they want this as a decimal. So to get it as a decimal, you can just put it on your calculator and use an SD button. That will work perfectly well. You can also type in 5 divided by 16 on your calculator. And I get 0,3125. And they want it rounded to 3 decimal places, right? Always pay attention to those kind of information of where we round to if they don't specify it. So that's 0,313 as a decimal. I'm not timesing by 100 because if I time by 100, that's a percentage, and that's not the same as a decimal. Also, just be careful of this word decimal fraction. Sometimes because we say the word fraction afterwards, people think to leave it as a standard fraction form, but a decimal is a type of a fraction. So we're still going into a decimal format. Okay. Our next question, number 3, is asking us to do a tree diagram to represent the different options. So let me get into a new page for that. Okay, so here we go. And we're wanting to know she can teach either grade 6 or 7, and she can teach them either English or maths. So remember that when we're doing a tree diagram, we want to be saying, what are the things we're choosing between? Those are going to be the different arms. Now, the important thing here is she's choosing either grade 6 or grade 7. She's not choosing between the grades or the subjects. So, because she's going to choose either grade 6, so we're going to say she could choose grade 6 or she could choose grade 7. That's the first thing she needs to choose. Okay? The end of your arms are the choices that you're making a decision between. Then once she's chosen the grade, she can choose whether she's going to teach them English or maths. So let's say she chose the grade 6s. Now what is her next choice? Well, her choice is either to teach them English or to teach them maths. Or if she didn't choose the grade 6s, she went to the grade 7s. Again, she still can choose English or maths. And that's almost a complete diagram. The only thing I need to now still do is do my option columns. So at the end of a tree diagram next to it, and remember, if you're given a tree diagram to draw, use up a lot of the page. Don't try and squash it all together. Rather spread things out so that you can fit everything neatly and it's easy to read. It's not necessary to try and squash it all together. Okay, now my option column, and this is something I also don't notice people doing. The different outcomes, I shouldn't say options, actually outcomes. Those must line up with the end of my tree diagram. So I'm basically lining them up and saying grade 6 English. So I'm going to say 6 English. Or grade 6 maths. So you really want to try and have your end of your arms at least on separate rows, if not with a couple of lines between them, so that you've got space to do this. I sometimes see people writing the outcomes in like a little cluster on the end or something, but it's part of the diagram. It should be in line with those arms at the end. So then we've got 7 and English and 7 and maths. And that's my tree diagram. Okay. I'm just going to point out a common error that I see, which is something we do not want to be doing. So this is like a do not do this. We don't want to be going and saying grades and then subjects. And then going 6 and 7. Oops. 6 and 7. And English and maths. That is what we do not want to be doing, because if we did that, you would be choosing between, she would have to choose either a grade or a subject, and that she doesn't want to do. She has to choose one of each. Okay, so just be careful of that. Then just to extend on this a little bit, it's not in the question, but I want to show you how we could ask follow-up questions on the tree diagram. So I could then ask you, what is the probability of her choosing grade 7 English. So then all that you're going to do is you're going to look at the outcomes column. That's why we have the outcomes column over here, right? We're looking over here. And we're going to say, right, how many options are there altogether? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. The number of options is my denominator. Then we're going to say, okay, how many of them fulfill this this condition of grade 7 and English? Well, if I look, the only one that does that, there's only 1 over there. So my probability is 1 over 4. Okay. If I ask you, what is the probability she will choose grade, let's not do 7, let's do 6. What is the probability she will choose grade 6? Nothing else, doesn't matter about anything else, we're just worrying about grade 6. So again, we're going to look at our outcome column. We know we have 4 altogether, so we can put 4 at the bottom. And then how many of them are actually grade 6s in them? So I've got 1 over there, 2 over there. Not that one, not that one. So 2 out of 4. We can then simplify that to be 1 out of 2. Yeah, you're always simplifying probability. Okay, so those are the kind of things we can ask you as follow-up on a tree diagram as well. Right, let's look at the next question. Okay, so this one's asking us to draw a two-way table with the result to be which you roll a die and then multiply the results of the die together. Use the table to determine the probability of getting a product of 12. Okay, so remember now we've got different options on how to do contingency tables depending on the information. The one in the previous question gave us the number of respondents who fulfilled each subsection. So there was the number of girls who liked to read, the number of boys who didn't like to read, and those were the numbers filled in. The other way of a two-way table is to show the possible outcomes, and that's the one we're doing over here. So we need to think firstly, what are the two different things that we are doing, the two different events we're doing? Well, we are rolling 2 die and we are multiplying the results. So rolling 2 die means, well, the first thing is going to be, well, what if I roll dice number 1? Okay, if I roll dice number 1, what could I get? I could get a 1, I could get a 2, I could get a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. Okay, this was die 1, dice number 1. Okay, the second thing I'm doing is I'm rolling another dice. So again, dice number 2, I could get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. Okay, now from here I can start actually filling in what is the possible outcomes, and they tell us we're multiplying the two results together. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to start by going, okay, what is a 1 times a 1? 1 times 1 is 1. What is 1 times 2? 2. 1 times 3 is 3. 4. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 6 is 6. Then I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to go 2 times 1. That's what I'm doing. 2 times 1 is 2. Then I'm going to go and say, okay, 2 times 2. This is a little easier when you're doing it on lined paper. And then I'm going 2 times 3 is 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 6 is 12. And you just kind of keep going with that. 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 6 is 18. And we can kind of keep going all the way along our rows, right? 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20. I'm going to do the last 2 rows quickly and then I'll get on. Okay, there we go. Then they want us to use the table to determine the probability of getting a 12. So if these are all my possible outcomes, the question is how many outcomes do I have altogether? And you could go and count them and go 1, 2, oops, let's get this to show properly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can literally just go and count your way along all the different outcomes. You could be looking at this and going, well, I already know all the outcomes. It's going to give me a possibility of 6 by 6 is 36 different outcomes. That's also fine. So I'm going to say the probability of getting 12. Well, there's 36 possible options. And then how many of those options are actually going to be a 12? So if I look and I see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 out of 36. And remember, we must simplify again. So 4 out of 36 goes in 1 out of 9. So there's a 1 in 9 chance that when you roll 2 die, you will get 12 as your answer. Okay, this was a very short activity on probability. If you're not comfortable with the section, I would recommend taking some time to go over it in a bit more depth. But hopefully that gave some insight into the different types of questions you can expect with this section.